Hi, welcome to Infusion Health, the podcast. I'm comedian Chris Patrick, a.k.a. Self-Proclaimed Power Man. And I'm here with my co-host and significant other, Rach.
Hey, guys.
Now, today we got a great show for you. We have, she's what you call a compassionate coach. She's traveled all over the world. She's lived in 8 different countries, and she's dealt with many different cultures. And I can't wait to actually find out exactly what this is and what she does and what she's all about.
We're also talking to her about all the food from all over the world.
All the different food. Oh, well, that's one of our things, Rach, because whenever we travel, one of the things is like, people say, well, you need to stay at an Airbnb because you can cook your own food. But one of the things when we travel, one of the things we like to do is sample some of the food around there. We're
foodies.
Yeah.
Anyways, welcome, Ron.
Okay, welcome. And her name is Mikki Gaffin Stone, and she's calling from Southern Colorado. Mikki, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here.
So they say you're a compassionate coach. What exactly is a compassionate coach?
Well, a compassionate coach, the first sort of part of that I like people to understand is that it means that I'm bringing compassion, not judgment, to sessions. So someone can talk to me about anything. I've worked with a lot of parents over the years because I'm also a board-certified behavior analyst. So I'm able to kids with autism. And parents often feel very judged and they feel very, I must be wrong because my child's having behavioral problems. And that's a big part that I want to dispel because it's not helpful. It doesn't move anybody forward. And blame is just a waste of space, really. It just holds you in place. It doesn't do anything useful.
Okay, so
I've been happy to that.
So
now that we know who she is, let's talk about you've been all over the world, right?
Yeah. Yep, I've had the good fortune to travel to a lot of countries. I've been in 3 countries in Asia, Europe, Australia, and USA.
Okay, and a compassionate coach. So you say, why would somebody come to you?
Well, there's a variety of reasons, but I have a lot of expertise in a lot of different areas. So I can literally be your holistic go-to person.
Okay. Holistic medicine. Okay.
Yeah. There's no point really in addressing one aspect of a person as far as I'm concerned. So I'm qualified as a nutrition coach. I have exercise specialties, behavior change specialties, life coaching. I bring a bunch of things to the table, and depending on what that person comes to me with, we work on that. Whatever's up.
Okay, and then now what Rach was saying, you've lived in 8 different countries. You've sampled food all over the world. Can we go into a little bit of that?
Absolutely. So it's a thing with myself and my kids that when we go to a new country, we try the things there that people don't generally eat elsewhere. So when we were in Cambodia, for example, one house that we went to, they were very kind to offer us a whole lot of food. And one of the things on the table was a salad. The thing with the salad was it had ants in it, and the ants were still moving. That is protein on the go right there. And that's one of those things. If you're going to eat it, you got to do it real fast, otherwise they run off your fork. It's a little freaky when you're not expecting it.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you can't mention Asia without mentioning durian. Have either of you ever tried durian?
No. What exactly is durian?
Okay, I'm so glad you asked. Durian is one of those things that you must grow up eating, I think. Otherwise, you have no chance. So it's a fruit, and it's known as the king of fruits to the people who are really into it. And literally fights will break out over buying a piece of durian. Like it's wild.
Okay.
And the taste has been described as a combination of savory, sweet, and creamy with a hint of chives and sugar.
No.
Okay, that's the description.
Okay.
Then it's also like tasting lots of diced garlic and caramel poured into whipped cream.
Okay.
Now, if you can wrap your head around those, and it's got this like slimy texture,
Okay.
and it smells like something is rotting and has been for a while. Like, it is nasty. And people love it. And you'll see people in the market just taking deep breaths of this stuff. And I'm just, whoa. Of course, I have to try it, but yeah, it's not on my list of go-tos. It's on my list of, I'm glad I did it once. I wouldn't ever do it again.
Sure.
But my Asian friends are appalled at my peasantry on this. But, you know.
Hey, you tried it. That's the rule I have with my children. You don't have to love it, but you do have to try it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's good. We had snake when we were in Vietnam. That was actually very good. It was very tasty.
Yeah, I wouldn't. When I was in Vietnam, I wouldn't eat snake.
He's got a friend that makes so much fun of him when he went over there.
Yeah, I would not eat snake. I was like, no. Well, see, the thing is when I was in Vietnam, it was a little bit after that bird flu. So they were like, you like chicken? I'm like, no, don't like chicken. I hate chicken. But it was a little bit after that bird flu. So I was after that bird flu, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna mess with the chicken. But one of the things I found out in Vietnam is that I said they kill it and cook it, because here we got the processing, we got that, and I was eating, and next thing you know, like day 3 of eating their food, because it's so pure, because like I said, they kill it and cook it. Next thing you know, I was like, it was like, let's just say it had to come out. I'm not going to get graphic, but it just like had to come out. And I was like, yeah, this, my system, I was like Pepto-Bismol every day, because my system just couldn't take it, because we've been raised here in America. We've been raised on that process and, stuff like that.
Oh, it's very different food. I lived in Bangladesh for 2 years. And when I first went there, I was living and working in an orphanage. And so I would eat with the kids, we had a lot of basically rice and dal, so rice and lentils, lots of that. And then occasionally we'd get some fish. And I tried not to think too hard about fish, but you're travelers, right? So I'm sure you've seen the Ganges at some point. Fish that's ever been in that is going to be, let's just say you don't want to think too long and hard about the water. But yeah, I found things changed a lot in my system while I was eating that kind of food.
Sure.
And the orphanage I worked at, this was an interesting piece. In Dhaka, the capital city, the kids were fairly small and skinny, not malnourished, just, small and fairly skinny. And then I went out to a village called Sripur, and we had a second orphanage there, and the kids were a fair bit bigger. And they looked really quite healthy. And so I was intrigued to know the difference, apart from, fresher air. And the difference was we had a lot of jackfruit trees at the orphanage. And jackfruit is like a milder durian. But the kids would eat that every day, and it's full of vitamins and minerals. And so they were so much healthier than the city counterparts.
I've had jackfruit, but I haven't had durian, so...
Okay, well, jackfruit is a lot nicer than durian. But it's kind of along those lines. But that fruit alone made a huge difference to the kids' development. They did so much better just eating that fruit.
All right, cool.
Yeah, well, the thing, because I've gotten into juicing again, and one of the things I found out about juicing, reading books on juicing and stuff like this, there's a lot of great things in fruits and vegetables, and in certain fruits that a lot of great nutritional things that you can get that. And the good thing is I call it's all natural, God made it,
Right. Yeah. The thing with the enriched foods that we buy in the supermarket is, as soon as it says enriched, this is not ideal, because they have taken out the natural vitamins and minerals in order to give a longer shelf life. And then chemical stuff gets put back in. That's the enriched. But the body doesn't recognize that properly as nutrition. So it gets it doesn't serve us as well as the real food does, because the body can process the real food. This other stuff that's enriched, it can cause some allergies and inflammation as the body doesn't understand what to do with it.
Yeah, well,
so that's where that's a whole podcast on its own about the processed food does.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, I see commercials for like naked juice, naked juice. And I'm like, this stuff ain't naked juice, because all it is it's
powdered down.
Yeah, it's powdered down. It's high. It's freeze. You're not freeze dried, but they've taken it down, dehydrated it. They've dehydrated it. Then they chop it all up, and then it's powdered down. Then they add water to it, and it's like, oh, it's real juice. It's like, no, you're just getting. When it says from concentrate, that's what it is. It's from concentrate. It's powdered down, and add water to it and all that, and all the nutrients and all that. But if you want it, then the best thing to do is to buy a juicer or buy a blender and blend it all up and drink it that way, like I do.
Actually, it's those two things. From the nutrition perspective, I would go for the blender every time, because the juice, when you have the pulp and everything with it, it gets digested at a better rate, and the body can handle the sugar that's in there much better with having the fiber with it.
Yeah.
Because if you're, like, when you next have a blood test, if your triglyceride level is up, and they always look at that along with cholesterol, the triglycerides are affected by drinking fruit juice, because that's a high concentration of sugar, and it's literally triglycerides with sugar, and the body stores that as fat.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a choice, using a blender over a juicer is probably going to help your triglyceride numbers.
Yeah, and that's what I found out, because I went and spent a pretty good penny on a juice, on a real nice juicer. And I told my friend, I said, yeah, I got this juicer. He's like, yeah, but when you juice it, the juice comes out, but that stuff that comes in there, all that stuff that you throw away, he goes, that's good for you. So then I went and bought a real nice blender, a Ninja blender, and I blend it all up now, and I'm getting everything. And it helps me too, because I'm saving a lot from having to throw that stuff away or throw it in the garden. I'm actually getting it into my body. So it did help a lot.
Oh yeah, that actually, I have the Ninja blender as well. I really like that one. And berries are good to throw in there. I don't know if you like berries, but those are a little lower in sugar and high in fiber, so they're good too. But yeah, blender is great.
Yeah.
So some of these world markets that you travel to, when you first started traveling and doing this, why did you want to do it? I mean, because for me, I'd be like, oh my goodness, I need to hit the market, because I want to see the original foods that can't come over to the United States.
Right. Well, the reason I go to the food market pretty quickly after I arrive at a place is because I find you get so much sort of flavor of the culture there, as well as the food itself. You see people who are they're not paying attention to you. They're not trying to sell you something other than maybe food, but they're not pushing a touristy thing at you. It's just where people go to buy food, and looking at kind of things that are on offer. And if I see something that I just don't recognize, then I'm going to zoom in on that and try and find out more about it, and then try it. Because it to me, it's just fascinating part of getting into somewhere. And because I've moved so often, it's paramount to settle in as fast as possible. And one of the ways to do that is through food. And you get to talk to people as well. They're interested, like, oh, you're not from here. What are you doing in here? And they can be very friendly. It's just a lot more organic, if you will, pardon the pun, to go that way rather than to sort of look at all the touristy places and working from there.
Sure.
Yeah, because with my business, we were working at the food. I was vending at the farmers market and here in Minnesota. And one of the things we found out is that every weekend, it's like it became like, Saturday morning we'd wake up and we'd go down to the farmers market, because we can get onions and fruits and vegetables, potatoes and stuff like that a lot cheaper than we can at the store. And plus, it's
Not only that, it's the freshest.
yeah, and it was very fresh, and we loved this. Like it became an annual thing, didn't it, Rach? It became one of our ritual things. Like, let's wake up, let's go down to the farmers market.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love farmers markets. I mean, they can you end up buying more produce than you can probably use sometimes.
Yeah, and it's also too, you're supporting local farmers. These small, not these corporate farmers, but these small farmers.
Yeah. Well, we in southern Colorado here, we buy all organic food as well. I just I've learned a little about the farming practices for the larger companies, shall we say, and I can't eat that. Yeah. The stress hormones that are in that animal are not okay. And I've done master's level research in nutrition, and the chemicals that are placed on, that are used to grow the food faster, bigger, repelling insects and all that kind of thing. Mm. The body has a very hard time metabolizing this, and it really puts a lot of pressure on the liver. Yeah. And some of the sort of products, once it reaches the liver, they actually become carcinogenic. Mm. There's a whole lot of issues with the farming practices right now. So I heartily recommend anybody that can get organic food and just, really focus in on the kind of things you want to eat. And if you eat in season, it's going to be a little more affordable. Mm-hmm. And I know not everybody can do that, and there are food deserts and so on. And, sure. And that, frankly, is criminal that that's the situation. Yeah. But yeah, food makes such a difference.
Yeah, and support those local farmers markets, because here in Minnesota, I think you got it too in Colorado. It's seasonal, so we only got from maybe like May to like maybe early September. October, September, to go to these farmers markets, and there's one in every city. But you got to definitely support these local farmers markets, and not only that, but you're getting the food a little bit cheaper, and you're getting it a lot fresher.
Oh, it tastes so different. I mean, if you buy yourself some tomatoes from the farmer's market, and then you go buy, just get one from the supermarket that's not organic, and you can taste the difference. I mean, they're really like a consistent thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So traveling with...
Just imagine what that's like when it gets into your body. The body also sees it as being very different.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's the thing, too. If you like to cook it, because one of the things that I wanted to ask, and one of the things I found out with the pandemic, because everybody was at home and people had these nice kitchens, and people started cooking more because they couldn't order out because they're working from home, and then people delivering food. But one of the things I found out is that people started cooking more, and when people started cooking more, people started to realize, like, hey, I've been buying this stuff from here, and we need this. We want fresher stuff, and now it's been more of a kick to, hey, we want fresher fruits, we want fresher vegetables, we want this, we want, instead of calling the food apps or the prepared foods and stuff like that, people actually started doing it a lot more at home and wanting better products.
Absolutely, and I think that can only be a good thing. And the other part that comes from that is people are learning, or particularly it was a steep learning curve at the beginning. They're starting to learn what's in their food. Mm-hmm. And I have a rule of we don't buy much that's in a package or a box, but sure. Occasionally there's something. But I have a rule: if I can't pronounce it, I ain't going to eat it.
Yeah.
If it's got a long chemical name, then yes, I can decipher it. But if that's what they need to do, then I'm not going to eat it.
Well, there's a common rule. Sorry, go ahead.
It's labeled. Sorry. As a rule of thumb, if it's labeled food, you go to a counter and it's like food over here. It's not food if they have to label it food. Mm-hmm. You never see carrots labeled as food, right?
Yeah.
You just knew it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my little smarty piece on that one. And you were going to say?
Oh, yeah. What I was going to say is, on a lot of these package things, there's a common rule of thumb. After you can't pronounce 5 things, you shouldn't eat it.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. It's like you being generous. I'm really very sort of persnickety about it. But yeah. And I really feel for people who are in a place where there's just no access to fresh food.
Yeah.
I just can't see how that happens. It's, it's so sad.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's one of the things too is now I work out, I work out with weights, and one of the things is I got into the supplementation and stuff like that, the shakes and all that, and then I saw Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead with Joe Cross, and I saw this and I'm like, hey, he's getting the natural stuff. He's getting his proteins. He's getting all this from juicing. And that's one of the reasons that got me into juicing again was that, okay, in a carrot, I can Google a carrot, what's in a carrot, beta carotene, all this, and I'm getting the real stuff as opposed to taking these protein shakes and all that. I was like, well, this says it's protein shake, but look at all this that's in it, sugar and all this other stuff that they put into it. And again, it's compacted down and it's dehydrated and compacted down and all this, where it's like I can get these fruits and vegetables and get the same stuff, but this is the real stuff, So I became more of a naturalist and trying to live more of a naturalist lifestyle. It ain't easy, but try to get it more natural as like I am.
And do you feel a difference?
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, one of the things is when me and Rach started dating, one of the things is she was living in Marshall, Minnesota, which is about 2.5 hours away from Minneapolis. So I would go out there, and one day I was with the kids. I said, come on, we're going to make pizza. And we made pizza totally from scratch. I mean, dough, everything, made it totally from scratch, bought meat and stuff like that, put that on the pizza. And they said, and the kids go, well, this is a lot better than the pizza we got at school. I said, yeah, because it's made fresh. And then a few months later, when Rach moved to Minneapolis with the kids, I asked the kids what they wanted for dinner, and they said chicken parmesan. I go, what kid says that? She goes, well, it's because of you. You opened their palates. You've expanded them to different things.
That's wonderful. That's so much better than hearing mac and cheese.
Yeah, they still eat that, but
of course they do. Every kid ever. If once they tasted mac and cheese, they want that quick carb and fatty goodness from the cheese, and it's not wildly helpful for food, but every kid eats it at some point. They all get from it, including mine. Mine did it too.
I think people also need to understand when they start eating these healthy foods, don't stay away from them after your body has had them for the first time, because it's going to pass through your body because it's natural. So I hear a lot of people saying, I had a reaction from that. I had to go be in the bathroom all day or something like that. And that's actually you passing that natural food through you and getting rid of that junk.
Yeah, it's your body. I found that out the I can't say the hard way, but the hard way, easy way. I found that out. I went on a juice cleanse for 3 days, and I found that out. My body's like, let's get rid of this crap, and it got rid of it. Not to get graphic.
Right. Yeah, no, I think when somebody's changing over from what they usually eat to more natural foods, more sort of in its original form, slowly but surely is the way to go. And adding new stuff before you take out old stuff, I think, is helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And a big thing I like to recommend that people do is journal, write about it. And it's not the same as keeping a food journal per se, because nobody likes doing that.
Yeah.
And nobody does it accurately. You're going to forget the bit of chocolate that you ate or the extra coffee that you had, or, because you're judging yourself by this point.
Yeah.
But the key to the journal is, how did I feel when I ate that?
Mm-hmm.
And what was the conversation in my head around it? And I find this is particularly useful when somebody is bringing themselves off high sugar foods.
Sure.
Because I could seriously go on for an hour about the damage sugar does.
Oh my
people,
goodness,
but,
yes. We'll have to bring you back on for it. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
That is the other white powder. Like, sugar is awful, but it has a strong lobby. There's a very strong lobby on behalf of sugar, so we're not going to get rid of it, unfortunately.
No.
But when people are coming off sugar, there's so much conversation around it in your head, because when you're a kid, you fall over, you scrape your knee. Oh, no, don't cry. Here, have an ice cream.
Yeah.
Oh, don't be sad. Here, have a cookie. And parents, in a desire to make their children feel better, often will go to food, right? Now, and it's always going to be sweet and fatty.
Yeah.
You got lots of sugar, you got lots of trans fat, simple carbs, which turn into sugar really quickly in the bloodstream.
Yes.
And you get this sort of hit that's like an emotional high from the sugar. And as you get older, you relate love, comfort, happiness with those kinds of foods.
Yeah.
That is not a recipe for coming off them very easily. So there's a lot of work to be done around that. But it's, if you add in fruits before you start taking out sugars, that helps a whole lot.
Oh, yeah.
Because you've got the natural fruit there.
Yeah, well, that was
Yeah,
I'm sorry, keep going.
No, I just said the natural sugar. I corrected myself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, that was one of the things with me was about a couple weeks ago, I found myself, really, really craving sugars, and I'm like, this doesn't feel good. I'm craving all this sugar, drinking the sodas, because I work 2 jobs. I'm going to the next job, feel kind of sluggish. I'm like, all right, well, let me have like a half a can of Mountain Dew. That'll wake me up, because of the caffeine. Not a coffee guy. So I said, okay. So I switched to tea. And then also I said, I got to find a juice. So I bought this book, The Juicing Bible. And one of the things I found the juice to curb my sugars. And I also Googled it, and it was carrots, apples, and ginger. So I blended it up, and I've been taking it. And since taking it, my sugar cravings have went down considerably. I still crave the, maybe like a piece of candy or something like that every now and then. But I haven't had these like really, really large sugar cravings.
Yeah, you've got some good sugars in there with the carrot and the apple. The ginger is a very nice, it's anti-inflammatory, which is good. And you have the flavor blending beautifully with both the carrot and the apple. Like, that sounds really tasty, actually. I want to go get some.
So in your travels all over the world, since we're coming to the end of time, what are some foods or fruits or vegetables that people should really go try?
So as a rule of thumb, and this will cover wherever you're living, go to the supermarket if you don't have a farmer's market available, farmer's market if you do, and look for a fruit or a vegetable that you haven't tried yet. And then Google that thing. If you don't know what it is or how to eat it, look it up and take one home and try it. And my husband and I do this. And he's actually he's a science fiction author, but he's also a trained chef.
Okay.
So we love to experiment with foods and try different things. And I think that's actually the key is whatever you find, because depending on your location, if the fruit or the vegetable comes from too far away, you're not going to get the right flavor. For example, I love dragon fruit, but I have yet to see dragon fruit in America that tastes like it does in Asia. It just doesn't. So that might not be the one I would point you to. But just be open to trying that weird-looking thing in the corner.
Yeah,
definitely.
Okay, well, this has been an interesting conversation. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, do you got a website or email? Or
I have a website that it's changing soon. I'm building a bigger and better one. But right now, you can find me at Mikki, Mikki, at thecompassionatecoach.com. And there's all sorts of information on there. And the new one will be, you can find me the same way, but it'll be bigger and shinier.
Beautiful.
So hoping to get that
and that will be in our links so you guys can reach out there.
Okay, we talked a lot about your travels and a lot about the different foods. We'd love to have you back on and talk more about compassionate coaching. I'll let Rach close us out.
Yeah. So, Mikki, I want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed my conversation with you both.
Of course. On here, we're building lines of love where history has borne lines of hate. And also trying to make you guys your best advocate. All right. Have a great one.
Thank you.
Thank you.